The Undercountry Music News is an excerpt of the weekly internet broadcast Undercountry Music, which features music from great country artists you won't hear on mainstream radio, as well as a roundup of the most interesting country music news of the week without all the fluff. To listen and subscribe to the full weekly episode, please visit undercountrymusic.com or simply subscribe to the Undercountry Music Podcast on iTunes. Let's get into it. Did you get your learning in for the day? I certainly hope so, because math was never my strong point. But what is my strong point is that it is time for the Undercountry Music News! Would you like to build a snowman? The ever-loving, invincible, incredible Undercountry Music News happens each and every week right here on Undercountry Music. And what it is that it's a real challenge to get your country music news each and every week without having to deal with a bunch of press releases and garbage and writers not doing their job and mailing it in with stories like Casey Musgraves braids her armpit hair or some BS like that. You know, I mean, I just don't need to know about Casey Musgraves' armpits, and neither do you. So what I do, I take a bullet for you, man. I go on to first I go on to Google. I type in the search term country music news, and whatever websites show up on the front page of Google, because to the victor goes the spoils, I dig into each and every one of those websites, and I try to find the one or two actual essential news stories from the world of country music so that I can bring them to you. I combine them from this site and that site and whatnot, and that way I can deliver you up just the country music news that you really, really need to know, instead of garbage, BS, press releases. Now, isn't that what you really want? Oh, yes. And if I go to a website that has not done its due diligence of reporting the week in country music news, I reward such websites with such lack work ethics with the dreaded Undercountry Music News Wet Belch of the Week. And it sounds a little something like this. And I usually do a belch right before the segment like that. And the reason I do it is because if all the websites I look at have a story, then nobody gets the belch, because I only deliver it when someone really, really earns it. And someone really, really earns it just about every week. And there are some weeks where like 3 websites will earn it. But you know what? I actually went for a month-long stretch at one point without belching at anyone. And you know what? I actually liked not belching for anyone, but now I do it at the beginning in case I don't get to it. I don't want you to feel like you've been deprived of the spectacle of the Undercountry Music News Wet Belch of the Week. I don't want you to feel cheated. Okay? Because I care about you. A lot, man. You know, I want to know your thoughts. I want to know your feelings. You know, I want to know what you think. I want to know your struggles. And I'll share mine with you. Let's get into it. Over at CMT, writer Allison Bonaguro reports that Tulsa, Oklahoma, in expectation of upcoming Garth Brooks concerts, has paid to rename several streets after Garth songs such as Shameless Boulevard, Rodeo Drive, Thunder Rolls Road, and Low Places Lane, which one commenter to the article claims actually leads to the city jail and homeless shelter So in light of that, they felt that was in particularly bad taste. Now, one thing the writer does leave unexplained is if this is just a fun, temporary thing they're doing while Garth is in town for his string of concerts, or if this is a permanent renaming of the streets to honor their hometown guy. If you know, drop me a line and let me know. On January 24th, Blake Shelton is scheduled to appear on Saturday Night Live, not just as the musical guest, but also as the host. I'd watch that. He's a funny guy. That might actually make me tune into SNL. Although I got rid of my TV a while back. But you know what? I might actually be somewhere on that night that gets TV. And that'd be kind of fun to watch. Right. Moving along. Taste of Country. There is an interview with Billy Currington responding to the general opinion in the country music industry that he is somewhat underrated as an artist and underappreciated. There's probably some truth to that. Billy states that he feels he's pretty much right where he needs to be right now and that his career has steadily grown and progressed each year and will eventually reach that tipping point that people are wanting to see. Now, honestly, Billy has seemed to be largely absent this past year from the scene since his legal troubles from a verbal altercation over a boating incident where he allegedly made threats to a boater that was, making wave washes on his dock. Like he was like speeding past Billy Currington's dock and making this big wash come over it and stuff, and it kind of ticked the guy off, and then he made threats, and apparently the guy he threatened was a really, really old guy, and apparently the old guy liked to sue people, and said it was verbal terrorism. Now, I don't know if there was any settlement made or whatnot, but it got Billy in a little hot water, made him cancel some appearances even. And, and since that has happened, I haven't really seen a lot from Billy Currington. And it's nice to see him resurfacing, though. Anyway, but yes, he has seemed to fly with sort of one foot just under the radar. And in my opinion, he kind of falls flat when he tries to do the generic relationship type of songs, that I'm sure industry types try to push him to do for a quick, cheap hit. And, he's not above that because I've heard a few from him. But, he's also got these kind of offbeat, more quirky tunes like Love Me Like My Dog Does, the one about turnip greens and, pretty good at drinking beer and stuff like that. And I think those are where his strengths lie mostly. But, that's just my opinion for what it's worth. Now, there's also a video over at Taste of Country of Luke Bryan singing That's My Kind of Night while sucking helium, as opposed to his usual sucking in general. They're also reporting over at Taste of Country on Tulsa renaming streets after Garth Brooks songs. And once again, this writer also does not divulge whether this is a permanent renaming of the streets or just a fun temporary things to celebrate his upcoming concerts there. See, I don't really care. It's not that life-altering. It's just, I was just more curious, and neither writer seemed to be forthcoming with that information. Anyway, moving along to Country Weekly. And now, this is one I cannot believe it took me this far into the news roll before coming to this story, which, in my opinion, is by far the largest story in country music news of this entire past week, albeit a very, very sad story. Grand Ole Opry legend Little Jimmy Dickens has passed away at age 94 after being admitted to a Nashville area hospital critical care unit on Christmas. Now, this was just 5 days after his birthday celebration at the Grand Ole Opry, celebrating his 94th birthday. Now, little history about little Jimmy Dickens. He received his nickname Tater from his chart debut single from 1949 entitled Take an Old Cold Tater and Wait. Ever since that time, he's been called Tater. Now, he's musically probably best known for his 1965 hit novelty song, May the Bird of Paradise Fly Up Your Nose. Ladies and gentlemen, little Jimmy Dickens, Grand Ole Opry legend, gone at age 94. All right, well, let's move on from that and scooch over to GAC, Great American Country. Tim McGraw and Faith Hill's Tennessee Farm, which they placed on the market in 2013, is apparently still on the market, aside from one parcel of it that was sold for $3 million. There are still 621 acres remaining to sell, including a log cabin, which dates back to the mid-19th century. You can read more about it and see pictures and whatnot over at GAC. Scooching my boochin' over to theboot.com. It's looking like mainly press releases as opposed to actual news. And, well, here's pretty much all they got over there. They've got stories about the People's Choice Awards. Miranda Lambert joins Pinterest. Scotty McCreery's next album will be Pure Country. Martina McBride to perform on debut of live online music series. Now, that's an online concert series. Now, okay, this one barely sort of qualifies as news. It's really just a concert announcement with the small twist of being an online concert. I don't know. I don't think concert announcements from people who make their living doing concerts is really news. That's just the artist going out and doing their jobs. Right. Carrie Underwood will have a new album and tour in 2015. Well, once again, she's just out there doing her job. That's not really news. And Eric Church isn't concerned about what genre his music fits in. Once again, not news. That's just a press release from his handlers trying to keep his name out there. So, you know what? I can't take it anymore. I believe The Boot qualifies this week for the Undercountry Music News Wet Belch of the Week. Let's see what we can do for them. Squeaky. I've been watching the Tick cartoons a whole lot this past week or so because I got a DVD from a sale at our local library. They were selling off books and DVDs and all kinds of stuff, and it was $1 for a plastic bag, and it was whatever you could fit in that bag. $1. And I walked away with just a buttload of DVDs and also VHS tapes. We have a VHS player. What the heck? Pop it in. It's easy to operate. Watch. You know, what the heck? Got just tons of stuff. And I've been eating that up for the past, actually, couple of weeks now. But anyway, yes. They got, who was that? The Boot. Yes, The Boot got the Undercountry Music News Wet Belch of the Week this week. And boot them aside and head over to the 615, which is a subsection of Billboard.com named after the telephone area code for the Nashville area, which is 615. Here is some more sad news here in this news roll. Lucinda Williams' father, Miller Williams, died New Year's Day, January 1st, of complications from Alzheimer's. Prayers for the Williams family this week. Right, and in other news over at the 615, A woman's family is suing Dollywood theme park in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, after the woman fell 10 feet from a ride she thought had stopped. Well, 10 feet in the air? Yeah, that's usually where they unload passengers. And this lady landed on her head and has suffered permanent brain damage. I don't know how bad. It might be mild, but they're saying it's permanent, as well as a spinal cord injury. Now, apparently, the safety restraints weren't the kind that lock into place, and you could just lift up the really no belt, nothing. I think it was just like a bar you could just lift up at any time. And the woman thought the ride had ended when it paused about 10 feet in the air. She attempted to disembark, slipped off the seat. It was a wet day, and she fell on her head. This was about a year ago in December of 2013, and the lawsuit is just now coming around. Now, I was reading the comments on this article, and most of them feel there is some blame to go around on this one from the park not having better safety restraints on the ride, and also for the woman, not really paying good attention and trying to get off the ride when it's 10 feet in the effing air. This one is just one of those unfortunate incidents, and now this lady's going to suffer the rest of her life for a split second of her not thinking clearly. And also, how many of us have done that in our lives where, we maybe didn't think clearly for a minute and accidentally did something stupid? I do that almost every day. And anyway, and also the ride not being operated as safely as it could or should have. It's just one of those things. It sucks. And apparently, probably some money's going to exchange hands from Dollywood to these people. And although she's going to have to live with this for the rest of her life, the end result for the rest of us is maybe they'll have another look at safety over at Dollywood, and the guests will all end up being a little safer for it. Let's hope that's at least one good thing that'll come from it. Giddy up and over to NashvilleGab.com. There is an opinion piece over there on Brad Paisley's song Perfect Storm hitting number 1 on the country charts this past week that actually has the nerve to be critical of the song. In this day and age where pretty much only ass kissing will do, otherwise you're labeled a hater. I was pleasantly surprised to see this review. Not because it bashes the song, but because somebody somewhere finally had the balls to say something critical that's just not massaging the industry. And I applaud you, Nashville Gab, for having the courage to do that. I'd like to see a whole lot more writers out there be a little more critical and hold their music to a higher standard. I think that's a healthy thing. I don't think that's a hater thing. I think that's very healthy. All right, and that's about all they had at Nashville Gab that I at least found interesting. So we're gonna gather moss over at Rolling Stone Country. What do they have over at Rolling Stone Country? They have a story that the Mavericks have fired founding member Robert Reynolds over drug addiction, stating he is in the grip of opiates and has been unable to tour or record. There's a lot more detailed information in the interview over there that, quite honestly, I don't really feel comfortable repeating, as a lot of it appears to be very personal information that I think perhaps maybe the band should have sort of kept under the vest and confidential. But if you would like to get on over there and read further details, go to rollingstone.com/country and read it for your damn self. Because this has been your news. I really enjoy the hell out of doing this show. I sometimes during the week procrastinate on preparing the show. Not really procrastinate because I'm really busy preparing things in my business, in my DJ business, to hopefully thrill my clients. And so a lot of times the preparations for the show will sort of go on the back burner a little longer than I probably ought to let it. But I get into it, and once I get into it and get the show put together and get to come and, sit here at the microphone and share this time with you, I got to tell you, once I'm here and in the seat and letting it fly, I have a lot of fun doing this. And I really, really appreciate you guys hanging out with me here on Undercountry Music. Thank you for listening to the Undercountry Music News. The Undercountry Music News is just a small excerpt of the weekly hour-long internet broadcast Undercountry Music, where I play music and have great interviews by lesser-known original country acts. Get on over to undercountrymusic.com where you can listen and subscribe. Stay under, stay country.